Hey guys, I'm Dave and welcome to the Weird Kid Show. Thank you for being here today. Have you guys seen those Sam's Club skeleton lanterns that they're selling? It's a Sam's Club exclusive apparently. They're $70 and I went on their website and they're already sold out. They look pretty big. I think they're like, I don't know, maybe 4 feet tall. There's a skeleton arm holding a lantern and everything. Looks pretty cool. I like it, you know. But $70 anyways, you can't get them. I thought, let's do a hack. Let's do a dollar store build. It's not going to be anywhere near as big as that, but it's the same principle. What are we going to use? Have you seen these? I know you have. These are skeleton tongs. Yes, like salad tongs. Okay, they sell them at Dollar Tree. I've seen them at Dollar General. They're only $1. They also have a zombie hand variant, which is green. You can use these too. So I want to take this. I'm going to take a little dollar store lantern. You can use whatever you find there, and we're going to make our own skeleton lantern using dollar store junk. Let's get to it. Thank you for being here. Alright guys, here we are again. So I'm calling this a dollar store hack, alright? Those lamps are really cool. $70 though. They're sold out anyways. I mean, this isn't going to be as big or as elaborate, but I think this is going to be pretty cool, and it's going to be cheap with just stuff you can buy from the dollar store, with the exception of the skull, which is what they're selling at Walmart right now. So we'll get to that here in a second. So the first thing is the salad tongs. Alright, so these, like I said, you can find these at Dollar Tree, and I've seen them at Big Lots. They're just skeleton tongs. Use them for salads or whatever. They appear to be hollow in the arm, but it seems solid in the hands. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these fingers at each joint, drill holes, and insert wires to make the hands articulated. Okay, I'm going to cut it here at this joint and put a thicker wire, cut it here and put a thicker wire all the way down through. I'm going to attach this wire into a wooden base. Okay, so this hand is going to be coming up out of the earth, and we'll get to that here, but step one is articulating this here. So I'm going to do the fingers first, and I'm going to come back, and then we're going to explain the rest of it. So hang tight. This is going to be a fun one. All right guys, so I wanted to stop here just for a second to kind of show you what I'm up to here. First of all, I cut this finger off. I'm using the right hand, and I cut the pinky finger off. Okay, and I cut it right there. I know that technically the knuckle would be about here, but I cut it just above it. Okay, and then I cut it here, and then I cut it about here. All right, and then what I did was, as you can see, here's the first finger, is I took each piece and using a small drill bit, I drilled a hole in each little piece, okay, on both ends. Alright, right in the center. And then I took some of this craft wire. Now this stuff here is really good because it's really flexible. It's not hard to cut. You can actually cut it with scissors, although I wouldn't suggest cutting it with a brand new good pair of scissors. If you've got a junky pair of scissors, it will cut this, okay? And so I cut a big enough piece to leave enough space in between the knuckles so that I can pose it. So now we can bend it a little bit here, okay? It's got a little bit of motion. All right, we're gonna curl this thing, but because it's gonna hold one of these lanterns. I'm not quite sure which. This one is what they're selling right now for Halloween. This is very similar to what the one that Sam's Club is selling, although I think the one that Sam's Club is selling is like orange and black, but it's still a Halloween theme. These, they seem to sell all year round. Okay, so we're going to decide here at the end which one we're going to use. But so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole in the center here to attach the first pinky finger. Okay, what I would suggest you do is do one finger at a time and keep your parts in order on how they fit together. That way you're not trying to work out which way it went when you glue it together with the wire. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the hand and articulate it, and then we're going to move on to the arm, which is going to be a different method. We're not going to be using this craft wire, we're going to be using something else, but we're going to get there, so hang tight. Alright guys, so we're back. So salad tong, okay, we went from this to this. Okay, now we have an articulated hand. You can pose it, bend the fingers, you can do all kinds of stuff. Do a little thumbs up, all kinds of stuff. But mainly what we needed to do is to hold a lantern, and I think I'm gonna go with the Halloween themed one because it's closest to the Sam's Club one, and it's Halloween. You know, this is something that you can do for a decoration on your table, or you can even keep this out all year round. You'll see when we get into this thing. So fingers, hands done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it here, and then I'm going to cut it here. Now this is hollow, okay, so I'm not sure what I'm going to find, if it's completely hollow or if it's just got a pinhole in it or what. But what I'm going to do when I mount this thing on this piece of wood that I'm going to use as a base, I'm going to use this thick drop down ceiling wire. Okay, so it's more secure, it's going to be more firm, and it's going to hold the weight of the lantern even though it doesn't weigh much. We want this thing to be rugged. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to attach the wire, and then we're going to come back, and then I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, because then we can start working on the base that this thing goes onto. So it's getting good now. Hang tight. And we're back. Okay guys, this is where we're at. This is what I've come up with so far. Okay, so I articulated the fingers, as you know, but I cut the hand off here. I cut it here at the elbow. Alright, and then I drilled a hole on both sides in the hand and in the wrist, and I drilled a bigger hole. I didn't use the craft wire this time. This time I used the drop down ceiling wire because it's sturdier. Okay, and then I attached it here with the wire and here, but I bent it first at an angle to give it this positioning. I played around with it to check to make sure that it was going to be able to hold the lantern. Okay, and once I was happy with that, then I went ahead and I filled in the empty spaces with the hot glue. So now this is in its fixed permanent position. You're going to have the little we call them hot glue boogers you have to pull off here and there. But notice how I made the wire longer. Okay, I wanted to incorporate this skull. Alright, so I wanted to make it look like a groundbreaker, if you will, where he's coming up out of the earth and he's got this lantern in his hand. So why do I have foam here, and why is there extra wire? Well, I'll tell you why. Because I am going to foam fill all of this, okay, to create earth, the ground, the graveyard soil, if you will. Okay, so in order to do that, I had to position the skull at an angle, and then just taking some scrap EVA foam, I just hot glued a piece after a piece to fill in to bridge the skull, and then I hot glued the skull in different areas. Okay, So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the spray foam, and today I'm using this is made by General Electric, GE, gaps and crack foam. I find this at Walmart. It's cheaper than Great Stuff, and it works fine too. You can use anything, Great Stuff or whatever, Loctite. But I'm gonna go ahead and spray this thing. I'm not gonna worry about the overspill because we're gonna go ahead and shave this at the end. Okay, we're gonna show you what we're gonna do with that after. But what I'm wanting to do is I want this part of the skull here to be visible, maybe some teeth a little bit, and we're gonna fill this in so that it's coming up at an angle. Okay, so we'll fill this in and come back, and then we'll talk about what we're gonna do next. What do you think? Pretty cheap build, and it's looking pretty good too. But wait till you see what it looks like in the end. Hang tight, guys. All right, guys, so it's been foamed. All right, so what I did was I just put it on this plastic table. That was key. It was that the fact that this is a plastic table. It's my workbench, you know. I wouldn't suggest doing it on a piece of wood. It might stick more, but this plastic table's pretty flat, so I felt confident I could spray it and then get it off. Okay, so this is what we got underneath. All right, and I wasn't worried about the overspill, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and take a razor knife and I'm going to cut the foam away flush to the shape of the base. All right, so we're going to have clean edges. All right, and that's going to give you an idea of like depth of the soil. Okay, and it's going to enclose this thing. We're going to probably do something with that after, but here we're at. You know, this is where we're at. Okay, and fits in there, and that's what we're looking like. All right, but we're not done yet. Now comes the fun part. This is the part where we make this thing come to life. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paint this entire thing in, you guessed it, burnt umber. Yep, it's a good earthy base coat, and it's gonna help us here with the soil. This is a grave, so it's gonna be soil, and it's also gonna be good to create the shadows in the skull and the skeleton hand. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just coat the whole thing in burnt umber, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about what color I'm going to use after to start making this thing come alive. We haven't even got to the pimping part yet. That's where we add bells and whistles to this thing after it's been painted. So hang tight. We'll be back in a second. All right, guys, here we are. All right, so this is what ended up happening. Okay, first of all, like I said, I cut all the foam away from the base. Okay, and what I was left with was a smooth surface on some areas, and then crevices in others where there was like some air pockets. And even if it didn't create the cavities from the air pockets, it still didn't look right to me, because I like this texture here. So let me tell you what you can do. If you cut it away like this, either you can leave it with the overspill, or you can cut it away to expose the base. And to fill this in, this is what I did. So you have the overspill. Okay, all I did was simply take my razor knife and start cutting away some of these textures. Okay, and then I just went through and found areas and just started to hot glue the whole thing in. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together. All right, and this whole side here has been done. As you can see, you can't even really tell that it's all been pieced together. The front's been done, and then the side's been done. Okay, so it's all been retextured. All right, so then I went ahead and started to dry brush it with the burnt umber, and I had to back off from that because it's really hard to get inside those crevices. So what I did was I just took flat black paint and just blasted it, which is what I should have done anyways, to act as a primer. So now that this has all been primed, it's cut to the shape I want. Now is the time for me to go ahead and with my burnt umber, I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about the next color, the transition. Okay, so hang tight. All right guys, so I dry brushed the whole thing in burnt umber. All right, that's a nice good base. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dry brush the whole thing with a different mixture. Okay, and that mixture is territorial beige, and then I have brown oxide. Okay, so it's a lighter, bit of a lighter shade than the burnt umber. Okay, but I mixed the two. All right, I put about half and half, and then I mixed the two, and got this I don't know, earthy color. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna do a little bit for you here. All right, and what you can do is when you dry brush this thing, you can go ahead and get you some paper towels or something like that, and then you can wipe off the excess. All right, so I'm just dry brushing, just giving it a good swiping here. All right, and that's what we're looking at. Okay, but now I'm going to go ahead to soften it. I'm going to take some toilet paper, paper towel, whatever, and we'll go ahead and dab it. All right, so this is going to help to take off the excess, and it's going to help it to blend in better. Okay, so I'm going to do the whole thing in this color, even the skull. The difference is that we're going to be going some extra steps with the skull and the hand than we are with the earth. Okay, so I'm going to work this in here. I'm going to keep at this, and we're going to come back, and then we're going to start tackling that skull. So hang tight. All right guys, we're back, and I went ahead and dry brushed the whole thing with that mixture of the territorial beige and the brown oxide. Okay, got nice color, I think. And then once I dry brushed it, I went back with the brush and just kind of worked it in and blended it in. Okay, and I did the same thing on the skull and then the skeleton arm. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that same mixture, which is the territorial beige and the brown oxide, and I'm going to mix in some vintage white to it. Okay, and make a light off-white. Okay, and I'm going to use that to dry brush the skeleton hand and the skull, but I'm going to leave this alone, the earth. Okay, I think that's done. There's a few things that we're going to do to it at the end here, so hang tight. I'm getting ready to dry brush the skull and skeleton hand. We come back, we'll be ready to start pimping this thing out, as I like to say. So hang tight, we're getting there. Alright guys, so I dry brushed the skeleton hand and the skull with that mixture of vintage white, territorial beige, and the brown oxide. And then what I went ahead and did, I just did a light dusting on the earth just to kind of make it pop. Okay, but I think I'm going to go one step further, and I'm going to take some of that vintage white and do a real light dry brush on the skull and then the skeleton arm, and then we should be done with that portion. Then we can move on to the pimping, my favorite part. You'll see what I mean here in a second. So let me just take care of this white, then we're going to talk about texturing and detailing this thing. So hang tight, we're almost there. And we're back. Okay, so like I said, I took some of that vintage white and then dry brushed the skull. Okay, so this, as far as structurally and paint, is done. Okay, this is what it looks like with the little lantern in his hand. I like that. I hope you do. I think it looks cool. You could almost just leave it just like it is if you wanted to. Alright? Me, I'm going to go a step further. Okay? And I've seen this stuff at the dollar store, but you can find it at Walmart, Joann Fabrics, Michaels, all the craft stores and everything. And that's floral, lichen, moss, and stuff like that. This is a bag I've had forever, and it's got a variety. It's like a, oh, I don't know. It's I don't know. To me, it's like a very, very, very light green, almost yellowish moss, or some people call it lichen. Okay, and I can go ahead and find little nooks and crannies to put that in. And then I also have this stuff, which is a bit drier. This is more of a mossy, like earth floor covering or something like that. So you can play around with this stuff. You could put little sticks if you wanted to, little rocks. And there's something else that I have here. This stuff here is called static grass. Some of you might be familiar with it, some of you might not. This is something that is popular among HO scale railroad modelers, okay? And it's like little blades of grass, okay? They have a special static, I guess it's a static gun that is a sifter that you put this stuff in, and you can blow it on your terrain after you've put some glue down, and then it's supposed to stand up. This stuff here you can use to add little bits of green here and there for like grass or something. And what I do in that case is I'll take some like Mod Podge or some white glue or whatever and water it down a little bit, and with a paintbrush that I don't care about, paint the glue onto the surface, and then you just get you a pinch of this, and you can sprinkle it on the prop, okay, and then let it sit for a bit, and then you blow on it and it'll stand up, okay. This stuff here you can find on eBay in different colors, different lengths, and you can find them at like hobby stores, like anywhere that sells model railroad stuff, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play around with this thing and put some greenery on it there and kind of make it come to life, okay. Then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you exactly where I went and how I did it. So we're at the end now. That's the last step for this piece here. I might take a piece of craft foam and glue it onto the bottom of the base so it's nice and cushiony to set on a table somewhere. But other than that, we're almost there, guys. So hang tight and then check out the final product when we get back. I appreciate you being here, and I hope you guys try this yourself. So we'll see you in a second. All right, guys, and we're back, and this thing is done. Okay, so you can go as crazy as you want to. Okay, you could put ferns and flowers if you want. Me, I like the concept of less is more, okay? So what I did was I just found random spots to put this static grass down, and I just put some Mod Podge down with paintbrush, sprinkled it on, and then blew on it to make it stand up a little bit. And I had some of these little bits here that I took off of this other kind of moss that I had, and just to stick little random sprouts, if you will. Put some of the lichen in some of the crevices. Just kind of went around it a little bit with, not too crazy, okay? So it's just enough to make it pop. All right, so this is done, and of course this is battery powered, so we can turn this thing on. And the great thing about these little lights, you can't see it because it's too bright in here, but the great thing about these little lamps here is that they use one of those battery powered tea lights under them. So if the thing ever burns out, it just pops out the bottom. You can always just buy a pack of them at the dollar store and replace it. All right, so it's gonna make a nice little soft glow. Anyways, I hope you try this, okay? And you can get as crazy as you want. All right, you could take the zombie tongs and make you a zombie coming out of the ground holding a lantern or something, or whatever you want, you know. It was super cheap, just took pretty much time. The lamp was $1, tongs $1, the skull was only a couple of bucks for the foam. Wood, you could cut scraps and stuff like that, so it was really dirt cheap. It just took time. That's it, pretty much, was time. So anyways, like I said, I hope you try this. If you do try, I encourage you to go over to our group, the Trio of Terror, on Facebook, and share what you've created. Me and the guys would love to see it. Speaking of the guys, I encourage you to go check them out too. Go check out Keith from Cobwebs and Candlesticks and Vic Springston from Monster Misfits. Give them some love, man. Watch their videos and subscribe to them. Anyways, I appreciate you guys, and until next time, peace.